Okay, so Pierce, how you doing? It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you, Mac. I'm glad to be chatting again.
Yeah,
Looks like we're doing the Mac and Pierce show again.
it does look that way. Yes.
So, if you are tuning in again, welcome back. And if this is your first time, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so, we're just going to talk about stuff.
yeah. What is there to talk about? Let's start with how are you doing? Are
How
you
am I doing?
are,
I
are
am
you
doing pretty
healthy?
well.
Are you isolated?
Yes, and both.
Oh,
Yes,
oh boy.
isolated and healthy. My family isn't going to school. I'm not hosting church. I'm a pastor, and I'm not hosting church. Let's see, we're stuck indoors a lot. I am actually more busy now than I was a couple weeks ago, just because I'm trying to do a lot of online stuff more than before,
Yeah,
and I'm calling people more than before, and
yeah,
it's exhausting. I thought that I was going to benefit from the social distancing thing. Like, great, I get to stay home and play video games.
yeah.
No, not really. I have not benefited in that way. But no, so it's tiring. It's really tiring. And but I think our family is doing pretty well. What
Good.
about you? How are you doing?
Yeah. It's. I am not getting the forced idleness that we were promised. I've been crazy busy trying to catch up with tech stuff, calling people. Yep, definitely. Um, And I got to tell you, this hand washing, like not that I didn't wash my hands before, but I'm washing like crazy now. And
Yeah.
I'm finding that there are some soaps that like the astringency, like having my hand near my face is like burning
Oh,
my nose out, and I'm getting
yeah.
angry about it. So I'm getting real picky about which soaps I'll use.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
I hear you.
that's sort of
Yes,
becoming a
we are
thing.
definitely going through a lot of soap, and we have very small children.
Uh huh.
So we've been trying to teach them to wash their hands anyway.
Right.
So this is now an opportunity where we actually have to demonstrate because we actually have to do a better job washing our own hands. No more of this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Splish splash. We're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they're good resource. There's an Alden Brown video. I know you know about it in case anyone else doesn't. He did a Good Eats style with like all of his typical camera work and
Oh,
attitude.
fun.
But you got to be careful which one you watch because there's like an adult cut. This is so dumb that there is an adult cut. There's an adult version and a kid version. They're the same excepting for the final scene. He does something a little sort of ha gruesome humor horror, but really little kids might be freaked out by it. So be careful which one of those you watch. And then
So I will not show that to my 4-year-old daughter.
yeah, exactly. That she's not the audience for the gruesome one, but the non-gruesome one's great, and it's got a cute little coronavirus that makes growly, snorty noises, and then there's another video. Oh, I wish I could remember who it was now. It's trending on YouTube right now, and this guy treats the hands of these kids with like a powder that they can't see, but it picks up on black light, and then do a little experiment when they show the kids like how easy it is to spread germs when you don't wash your hands. And this was filmed on the day that it was announced to that school that it would be closed. And so at the end
Right.
of the video, there's like this sort of candid moment where they pause and they hear the principal on the speaker announcing that school's going to be closed for a number of weeks. And the whole classroom erupts into cheers, and you hear this one little voice in the background yell, "Fortnite!" And it's like,
Oh dear.
yeah, yeah, but
Actually, that's one thing going on in our house
yeah,
is our kids really miss school. Our two
interesting.
school age kids, the 6-year-old and 8-year-old, they love school, and they were pretty annoyed at us, their parents, for the school being canceled.
What have you done?
Yeah, it's what have I done? Releasing it's like I designed this weird global pandemic just to take them out of the school they love.
Yeah,
But
that's
no, I
right.
did not. Uh, but I'm glad we're able to make light of it. I think sometimes it's important to laugh about hard things.
Yeah,
Like when you hear about the kinds of things people would laugh about, say, during the bombing of London during World War II, you
yeah.
think, how could they do that? They had to.
It's how you
That's sort
get
of
through it.
right, exactly. And we're not being bombed. That's nice.
Yeah,
But it is super stressful.
yeah. That's something I was thinking about. I was putting together, like I was shooting the main content for a video I'm going to put out. I guess tomorrow once I've got it edited. That's sort of about like how are you dealing with everything so far. And it got me thinking about just how weird it is and how a lot of people around me seem to not quite know how to react. And I'm seeing that in a lot of people find things are funny in a different way than they used to, at least the people around me. And that's just sort of one of the things that's kind of shown up in it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'd say I'm busy, but I'm getting through it. And I know that my life's a whole lot easier than other people. Another perspective that has occurred to me recently is, this could have been a lot worse. Like there are, it could have spread as easily as measles, which this isn't even close to. It could have, there are all sorts of scenarios in which if things were slightly different, we'd be facing something much worse. And I'm just really grateful that we're not. Like this isn't this isn't a humanity ending thing. It's bad.
Right.
But maybe we can use this to learn some lessons that will protect us from the next thing whenever that comes.
Yeah. It's not Stephen King bad. It's just history bad.
Right. This is not The Stand.
Good.
So that'd be interesting. Yeah. So here is what I'm really concerned about though. When I say really concerned, I am concerned for people who are in higher risk categories. I mean, you and I both, we have relatives, we have loved ones who could be really hurt by this if they caught it. But on another level, sort of below that, I'm really concerned about like the sort of the social, spiritual, and emotional impact on society this is having.
Yeah.
Like social distancing, it makes sense. I'm on board with it. This is not an argument against at all. I've been a sort of loud proponent of the basic idea, but we're meant to be together. Like that's kind of how we're made. And I say this as somebody who's sort of one of those weird extroverted introverts. Like I love alone time. You know that.
Right. Well, I like being alone with close friends, and pretty much other than my wife, I haven't really been in the same room with any of my buddies or friends or the people that I'm used to being with. And in some ways I'm lonely in that sense. Like a delivery man stopped by to deliver packages and we sort of kept our distance. We didn't even elbow bump.
Right.
But
6 feet.
I was like, hi, how's it going? You want to chat?
Yeah, that's
Mr. FedEx dude.
Human contact. Oh boy. Yeah,
right.
It's weird. Well, okay. So first of all, I just want to throw out there, it's okay, for instance, to go outside and go on a walk with a 6 foot separation with a friend. There are little ways that you can do things like that.
Yeah, our kids actually played with some neighborhood kids on the same street, but they never touched, and they stayed 6 feet away from each other. Wow. And it was all right. Yeah. It was hard to get them to really pay attention because they're kids. Yeah. But they did a pretty good job.
What we need to do is we need to like strap them with big like hoops so that they can't like get close to each other. And
or those big like hamster balls.
There you go. Yeah. More seriously though, when I say that we're meant to be together, I see that as that's not just a psychological or a biological thing. I mean, there are those pieces to it, but I think there's a spiritual piece to it too. Last fall, I gave a series of sermons here at Washington New Church, sort of kind of laying down my understanding of what it means to be a church community. And one of the 3 pillars, I think, is that a church provides human connection. It's how we love one another. And can I get all pastory preachy for a second?
I think that's your gig.
Okay.
And I like it.
That is what I get paid to do. I know it's fun to talk about hockey and meditation, but so I'm going to just give you some quotes. This is something that I challenged the kids in the kids talk with this one. And so here are some quotes. Matthew 19, starting at verse 16, says, "And behold, a man came up to him saying, 'Teacher, what good deed must I do to have eternal life?' And he, Jesus, said to him, 'Why do you ask about what is good?' And then he says, 'Keep the commandments.' Guy asks back, 'Which ones?' And the Lord says, 'You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. honor your father and mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Now, that's not all of the 10. It's a select from the 10. Okay, that's the first
And then
one.
that bonus one at the end.
Yes, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Second one, John 13. This is a famous one. It says, a new commandment I give to you, verses 34 and 35, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another. That's quote 2. Quote 3, almost done. Matthew 18, verses 19-20 says, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. Right. And finally, Genesis 2, this is part of the creation story, and verse 18 says, then the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him. And then it talks about the creation of Eve. And, we sort of know how that goes. So what do these all have in common?
Not one.
Yeah.
More than one.
Loving
somebody else.
None of them make sense to somebody who is a hermit.
Yeah.
Hermits do a very poor job of loving the neighbor, loving one another. Also, the commandment to not murder, to not steal, to not, those aren't issues when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Everything in the word is geared towards our relationship with one another. Everything.
Yeah. I think about that. I especially love that quote, where 2 or 3 are gathered together, I am in the midst of them.
Yeah.
Which is another translation. I like thinking about the Lord is flowing into all of us and giving us life. But where he really becomes present is in the mix and in the midst of us. Yeah. Is the connection between 2 people. When 2 people are being kind and loving and honest and helpful, there is where the Lord is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, by the way, church is more than just a sermon.
Yes.
Like the getting together and connecting with other people before and after and in the midst of it, the Lord's in that. That's a holy thing.
We talked a little bit about what we were going to talk about, and we didn't mention this, but something that's been really hard for me is I've been preaching to my congregation and teaching them and encouraging them that very fact that church is more than the sermon.
Yeah.
It's more than me just preaching at them. It's not them coming to a TED Talk.
Yeah.
That it is the worship experience, but it's also the loving one another community that happens throughout the week.
Yes.
It's when somebody's sick in the hospital and everybody else gives them a call, or when somebody visits them. It's when somebody has a baby and people bring them meals. It's all the small things that create those relationships throughout the week. And even on Sunday, seeing another person, giving them a hug, holding their hand.
Yeah.
And I've been pushing that pretty seriously because how important it is. And now one of the only things I can actually do for them is give them this remote sermon. Here's something I uploaded on YouTube, and it feels inadequate.
Yeah, I just sent a letter out to my congregation today, sort of explaining how we're going to do online church this Sunday, which we can get to in a second. Well, actually, we'll get to that a little bit later. I know. Well, okay, we're here now. Ladies and gentlemen, we do show prep, but we ignore it.
That's right.
But so I sent out this letter, and I just openly acknowledge, and I don't know if any of them cared. I care though. I've spent the last so this is a new gig for me. I just became pastor of this church last July, and starting in late August, going up to a week ago, I've been sort of trying to build this vision of what a church can be, what it ought to be, and what we're going to be, and we've been doing strategic planning. And everything, like I said, there are 3 pillars. Like our goal is to provide people to satisfy the human needs for meaning, which we do by sharing truth. This happens with our sermons, with our study groups, all that. Purpose, which we do through being useful, and in particular, getting together and being useful to our surrounding community. And connection, and loving one another, and providing people who are lacking connection a sense of, wow, there's somebody who cares about me. And this stupid virus has knocked 2 of those 3 legs out from under my stool, and I'm mad about it. And because it's really easy now. Yeah, I can turn on a camera and I can give a message. I can share the truth. I can help people continue to pursue meaning, but the purpose and the connection are hard. And there are things that I'm trying to do to deal with the connection side. Um, so, so yeah, so I sent this letter out. I'm saying, look, I recognize we've all decided to get on board with this 3-part vision for the church, and now it's a 1-part vision, but we're going to find another way to root around this problem.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like for us, we're such a small congregation that one person puts it, we're like a family.
Yeah.
And we've got, not a lot of people are related to each other, thankfully.
Not an actual family.
Although some of them are.
Sure. Always.
But we also have some people who've been coming only in the last year. And they have commented how welcoming my congregation has been.
Beautiful.
And how loving and how friendly they've been. And it's just been so nice. And now I feel like everyone's sort of cut off from each other.
Yeah.
You know, they're also spread out already. And now it's already hard enough to get people together. Now everyone has the perfect excuse not to put in the extra effort. And they shouldn't necessarily get together.
Right.
And yet, how do we get people to connect with each other? Because
right.
I don't think it's just that it's healthy for us. I actually really need positive peer pressure.
Yeah.
Like this is something I notice about like my social life. Like I have a D&D group that we play Dungeons and Dragons or board games or other games once a week in person. And most of the people in it, all of them are married and most of them are dads. There's one couple that doesn't have kids and they both play and I love them. But they're also then 4 dads. And it's a positive peer pressure on me.
Yeah.
Because when I show up to the game and I say, hey, I was late because I had to help put the kids to bed, or, you know, I got to get up early tomorrow, they support me in my marriage and in my being a good parent and being a good person. I'm choosing to play games with these people because they support my values. I need that positive peer pressure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would hole up as a hermit.
Well,
I mean,
so
that's the bad place I would go.
So how are you dealing with that now that you can't sit together?
You know, at first it was really tricky. One person in our group really does have a compromised immune system. So they are a person at risk. So we can't even pretend to be like, well, we're a gathering of under 10 people. We can get together. We can't even really pretend that. So we actually tried, for the first time, the group tried playing over Zoom, which we're actually using a little bit of right now. And then an app called Roll20. And
okay, I've heard of that.
It worked amazingly well.
Really?
It was not the same. We didn't share snacks and drinks, but we were actually more focused in some ways, just because if you put in the effort to log in and to actually play a game, you're really going to. But we laughed so much. And that was one of the best parts, was how much laughter happened over these 2 to 3 hours with each other. Cool. And it was great. I just loved it.
Roll20, huh?
Roll20, yeah. And now, as I speak with you, 2 of those guys are working on what's called a Tabletop Simulator.
Okay.
That's the app. And it's on Steam, and it's super cheap. And basically, it can emulate any board game that you tell it to emulate. And we're playing a board game called Gloomhaven, and we've been playing it for like a year. We get together every couple of weeks.
Well, hold on. You can play Gloomhaven online?
Yes, with Tabletop Simulator. And the designer of the game has even sort of blessed this free mod that people have made for it. Now, if you don't know how to play the game, if you've never played it on paper, it's going to be a nightmare to try and figure out online. Okay. But it does mean that these 2 guys, again, who are dads, who have kids about my kids' age, whose wives share similar ideas about raising children and marriage that my wife does. In fact, that's how I met them, is they're the husbands of my wife's new friends. And so I have another way of connecting with them through this little silly app. And it's really valuable. I know these are just silly games, but they're excuses for us to focus on a shared experience at the same time and to see each other's faces and eyes and things. And so it puts humanity again into my life. Yeah. And, if they're watching, it gives me somebody to love. I love you guys. But seriously, it really does give me someone to love. So no, that's been great. Another thing that's been helping me is, and you know this, our family has a group chat just like text chat. And it waxes and wanes in how much volume and how much stuff gets said. But ever since this virus popped up, it's been hopping. It's been hot.
Yes, it has. It really
It's been
has.
full. But it's really helped too. But it's not the same as being in person. And so I've really appreciated that we live in a world where there is video chat. And that's really been impressive. But so that's really been helpful. And the other part is I've been using it for work. I video chat with a group of ministers like you
Right.
Every week. And I also meet with some staff at the General Church pretty regularly. And we did it about every 2 weeks. And I missed a couple of meetings. And if you're doing something every 2 weeks and you miss 2 meetings, that means you don't talk to them, the group as a whole, for a month.
Right.
So I felt disconnected. But lately, we're sort of going to 2 meetings a week and trying to get more done. But it means I'm way more connected to them too. And it's been really nice reconnecting with those people, especially since we have these shared values and shared visions of good things that we could do. So I've really benefited from that. And I can't stress enough how valuable it's been to me as an introvert. And so it's sort of something that I want to encourage my congregants, like reach out, even make a video call with somebody. It's an amazing technology. And if you don't have that, just call someone, make a phone call. I think that for me, that's one of the ways that the Lord says that we can honor his commandment or invitation to visit the imprisoned and visit the sick. You know, we're all kind of prisoners right now. We can visit each other. We can't break each other out of jail, but we can visit each other.
That's a good way of looking at it.
And so I think this is an opportunity for us to hear that the Lord's invitation there and really love one another by visiting one another.
Yeah. Well, I recently have started trying to every day intentionally reach out to somebody specific.
Yeah.
And I love that technology makes it easy to do that. And that's so far made it like a lot of my reaching outs have been. I'm glad you said call somebody too. Because there are people for whom, you know, a lot of this tech stuff it can be frustrating and they don't always totally get it. And now to be extra dependent upon this thing that's difficult for them, that's a huge burden. But you can still call them on the phone. And that's really important to reach out to those people specifically, I think.
Yeah. And it's something that I've been trying to do that more regularly too. You know, I made a bunch of phone calls to various congregants, and I'm going to do some more phone calls. And at the same time, I want them to do it.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
It's not just the pastor's job. My congregation is great about that. They do check up on each other and they do call one another.
Good.
And I love that about them. But I know that there are people who are not my congregation who are going to watch this video. It really is an act of love to reach out and call someone. And if they don't answer the phone, if they block your call or whatever, or they just ignore it, and you leave a voicemail, you've still told them that you love them merely by calling. Yeah. Even if it's somebody that you don't think of it that way. It's just, well, I've never really called this person. You can just call them. And hey, it'd be this great thing. And it's okay if it's awkward. That's normal. Yeah. Just go for it.
Speaking of reaching out and talking to people, I'm looking at the comments. I'm still learning how to watch the comments while we talk, and I'm just want to quick say hi, Holly Motley. Holly, you've never met her, but she was one of my favorite people down in Austin. And
hi, Holly.
And she mentioned how fun our church dinners were and how that was like a great way of connecting. And Taney Friend, I believe you know her.
Yes, I do.
She just threw a yo into the comments. So, hey, Taney, that's
yo. Yeah. And so it's been great. And, you know, and our kids are video chatting with Gran, and they're even chatting with their school buddies that they're getting together with that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I am struggling now with, and I wanted to ask you about, we mentioned it briefly, is I wanted to ask you about what you're planning to do for church service.
Yeah.
Just as a heads up, what I did last week is I just recorded a sermon
Mm-hmm.
and sent it out and posted it. And it was pretty good, but it was just a sermon. And
Right.
so now for this Sunday, I'm going to probably do the same thing, but I also want to add something to it somehow to create that social connection for people.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I just don't know.
well,
I'm still struggling on it.
so I'm taking this one step at a time. Last Sunday, I didn't even do anything. What I did was last Sunday is I sent out links to a podcast that we do that carries our sermons, and that people can go and find old sermons that way, and links to a number of other churches that I knew would be streaming. And just because I wasn't quite ready to launch a thing yet, and I had a bunch of other things going on. This Sunday, my goal is to just try to get the sort of sermon part of the worship going, and then in following weeks to add other things. So what I'm talking about, if you're somebody in my congregation, hold off on getting excited about these different parts because I'm rolling them out in steps. But here's the plan. So this Sunday at 11 on a YouTube channel, I'm going to go live. I'm going to have a very sort of simplified worship service in which I invite people kind of into a space of worship. There'll be prayer, some reading from the Lord's Word, and I'm going to give a talk that's grounded in the Word, and then we'll close with another prayer. And that will be it for Sunday number 1. Now, on top of that, I'm planning on using Zoom, the technology we're using to conference with each other here, to create opportunities for them to get together with one another. And I haven't fully figured out how to tie that in yet with Sunday worship. And I might not. Here's something else I'm toying with, and it's really dangerous for me to say this in detail because now people may want it and I'll be stuck doing it. And
Please forgive us when we do not follow through.
right, I might not do it this way, but kind of the way I'm leaning right now is to offer one or possibly 2 time slots, like a Wednesday night and maybe a Thursday lunchtime, where I'm just going to open up a Zoom room and give everyone in the congregation a link. And maybe one of them will be just sort of like a check-in social. How are you doing? Do you know of anybody who's in need of special support? And just sort of a conversation space. And maybe the other one will have a little bit more sort of focused content. Maybe share some readings and just have a conversation, or maybe just conversation about the previous Sunday. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing. So that's sort of that's what I'm hoping to do for the connection side, is to get people talking together in online groups. And
I was actually thinking of doing something similar, using Zoom to have sort of a group chat after my sermon.
Yeah.
So I would send out the sermon at 11 a.m. and then at 11:30, I'd open the Zoom link and I'd tell people well in advance, hey, log in. The thing I'm struggling with, and maybe you and I can even try and talk about this.
Yeah.
And if you are an audience member and you're wondering, how easy is it for someone to just connect to a Zoom thing? I don't know. And it's funny. Those are some of the challenges that are just, you think, oh, well, I'm just going to get these people to do it. And then they're all in the nitty gritty of actually making the technology work. Yeah. Like making sure the camera connects to the computer, which connects to the mic in the right way, at the right focus.
Right. Although
all those little things.
One of the things I like about the Zoom platform in particular, and by the way, we are not sponsored by Zoom. I will throw out there that the corporation has, they've given free licenses to schools during this crisis, and it's been an amazing tool for us. But they're not paying me to say this. What's cool, one of the cool things about Zoom is you can use just a regular telephone to just phone in. You won't have the video, which I think hurts a lot in some ways, but you can still participate even if you can't make the laptop camera solution work for you.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be especially helpful for those people who struggle with technology.
Right, exactly.
And I definitely have people like that in my congregation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I take for granted I'm sorry, I got distracted. Taney's recommending Johnson's baby soap because it's naval offensive. I'm on it.
She would know.
Yes. Yep. But Taney, you threw me off.
You're talking about Zoom and connecting with people. One of its benefits is the phone call, and then you were saying something else.
Oh, we just take for granted that everyone's got a camera on their computer. And
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
that's not really true for everybody. Like there are lots of people that they bought the computer 10 years ago. It's still doing what they wanted to do. They check email. They look at their family on Facebook. No camera, no microphone. So yeah, I mean, that's a thing to take into account.
Maybe for another conversation, but I heard some people talking about what's going to happen to society, what will change that lasts longer than the coronavirus. It's hard to imagine now, but this thing will go away or soften or be a small part of our life sometime in the future.
That's a plan.
Are we still going to shake hands after that? Or will we have sort of broken that habit? One of the things that I think is interesting is, I don't know if y'all remember this, but 20 years ago, before 9/11, when you were watching cable news, there wouldn't be the Chiron news crawl underneath. There wouldn't be a breaking news, this crawl. That was sort of became super popular because of 9/11. And suddenly there was too much news and they couldn't tell you enough.
Right.
And now it's always there, even though we're not in a breaking news situation.
Yeah, I was listening to
now we kind of are. But that's something that just changed with news reporting.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I thought was interesting for us today is 4 years ago, it was easy to make a video call. People could do it anytime they wanted to. People just didn't really. I could have used Roll20 4 years ago to play D&D with my buddies group up in Pennsylvania that I miss.
Yeah.
But we just don't bother because I don't know, like, how are we going to do it? Is it really worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now all these people are becoming experts at using it.
Right.
I wonder if we've crossed that tipping point where connecting digitally will be really effective and helpful. And people are just going to say, well, might as well. It's easy.
Well, I was just going to say, I was listening to the Freakonomics podcast, the most recent episode, and they were talking to a bunch of economists about what interesting things are we learning and what changes are we being forced to make that may have permanent effect. And one of the things that they got talking about was education. And, and they're coming at it from the perspective of economics professors, and suddenly they're being forced into distance teaching. Some of them had some experience in it already, but now it's like, that's it. That's how you do it.
Right.
And I was listening. I drove my second son home from college just the other day, and he had an online class that he had to attend during the car ride, taught by our brother Scott, by the way, who still needs to get onto this somehow.
If you play the Pearson Mac Show drinking game, take a drink. Scott,
there you go. There you go. Scott reference. And this is a positive one. I'm going to compliment him here. But I got to eavesdrop on Scott distance teaching via a bunch of tech tools, his 300 level religion course. And I got to hear, the students giving their presentations, and I didn't watch it because I was driving, but they had stuff going up on the screen, and Tommy had his phone there in the seat next to me, and he was participating. And it's really cool to watch. But it also strikes me that from a parental standpoint, I mean, if it's tough on the professors, oops, now we're all homeschooling.
Right.
I imagine that is a crazy challenge for a lot of people.
We homeschooled our oldest daughter last year.
Right.
And we did it for a lot of reasons.
Right.
And we loved it, but we weren't part of a community. That was the hardest part. We were part of one community called the Natural Learning Alternative, or NLA. So if you're an NLA person, we love you. We miss you. We're still good friends with actually a lot of those people. So that was a community, but it wasn't the same institutional community that being really involved in a school is.
Yeah, it's not the same.
And as I said earlier, our kids love their school, and I love their school too. But now they're home and they miss it. And the hardest part about having the kids home all the time is that now we have to be the teachers. And what's hard about that is if your kids go off to school and they get taught by a teacher and they have a hard day, which is going to happen no matter how good the teacher is, it's normal to have a hard day. They can come home to you and you can be the coach and the comforter and the helper and the mom or the dad. But if you're sitting at the table with them and you're trying to be the teacher or at least the supervisor of the teaching, that messes up that relationship.
It does, yeah.
In really hard ways. And so, it's been really hard having kids home off their rhythm. We love having the kids home. They're doing amazing things with us. And so but it's jarring,
Yeah.
It's not something they're used to.
Well,
At the same time, we're really impressed. Going back to that school, we're impressed by the work that the teachers at our school were doing. And the stories we're hearing from some people, a lot of teachers are doing amazing work. I went over to the school and they had a door open, and you go in and they have a teacher there and the principal, and they have these bags and they've labeled them for kids, and you don't touch anybody. Don't even elbow bump. And you go in and you get the bags with the names on them, and they sign you out. And I've got these 2 awesome goodie bags filled with all sorts of stuff: a recorder for playing around the house and being really loud, clay, all the drawing stuff, workbook, all this stuff. And it's just amazing how much work they put into it.
Yeah,
I'm floored and really grateful.
I've seen kind of the other end of that here, because at the Washington Church, we also run I was going to say an elementary school. Actually, we go up to grade 12. The high school is an alternative high school. It's already partial homeschooling in its style. But the K through 8 is traditional classroom, semi-traditional. It's multi-grade, but and luckily for us, this really hit and things started getting closed down the first week of our spring break. So the teachers already had a little bit of cushion, but still watching them scramble to try to figure out how they're going to accommodate at all sorts of different levels too. How do you distance teach kindergartners? Try to put a bunch of kindergartners on a Zoom call. I don't think it's going to go very well.
Not the same.
No.
Although our 6-year-old son was on a phone. They couldn't get the Skype or Zoom working with his 5-year-old friend in kindergarten.
Okay.
And they just chatted on the phone in seemingly ridiculous ways that I could not understand for like 10 minutes. I didn't understand any of it, but they did, and they loved it.
Yeah, well, we have one of the most talented, skilled, wise kindergarten teachers I have ever encountered. But I promise you, you put her on a Zoom call with a dozen 6-year-olds.
No way.
Teaching will not happen in that environment.
No.
But so like at each level, they've got different things they're trying to do. And also on top of that, we've got different homes that we're trying to accommodate that have different levels of access to technology.
Oh, wow.
And but watching them scramble to work has been really kind of inspiring, because every one of them is so just really dedicated to providing their students with what they need educationally. And they always have been. And now they're thrown into this weird situation, and they're just, it's been cool to watch, but it is hard work. There's going to be some misses and some missteps, because a lot of people are doing things they've never done before. And it's going to be a giant learning experience for sure. But
no pun intended.
Yes, well.
That reminds me, one of a band that I really liked about 15 years ago, but he still does music, Death Cab for Cutie. The lead singer for that is doing daily concerts. He says, "I love people coming to see me play, and they can't. So I'll come to you." And so
Nice.
Every day, I think at 4:00, but don't trust me on that. Google it. He's doing a live show where he sings some songs mostly by himself, because he has to be by himself.
Right.
That's just so impressive. And there are just so many people like that who are going out of their way. I'm sure everyone watching is immediately thinking of the person, oh yeah, well, I heard about this. Well, I heard.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people in our society are stepping up to the plate in that way. And I was at Walmart picking up groceries. We did Walmart pickup. So we ordered them well in advance.
Okay.
And I showed up, and I know this has been a really positive video, so this will be my one negative. And it's not about Walmart. I show up, and it's a line of cars to get your groceries. And I'm supposed to pick my groceries up at 1, and I wait until 2. And finally, it's my turn, and I have to pull my car in, get my groceries, and get out of there. And the woman working at Walmart, it's just her and 2 other people, going through the Walmart grocery store, putting stuff in bags, putting them in boxes, taking it out to the cars, handing them to people, making sure everyone got their right stuff. These 3 people are doing the grocery shopping for everybody else that's coming in.
Wow.
And I didn't pay anything extra for that. There's not even really an opportunity to tip these people. They are doing the Lord's work. I am eternally grateful. And I remember, and the thing that struck me was half the people waiting in line were so grumpy and impolite to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had to wait an extra hour, but that's life.
Yep.
And I think that that's something that is really important. Getting back to what the Lord teaches about forgiveness.
Yeah.
You know, people in life are going to get their feet dirty. It's normal. Life is dirty.
Yep.
People are going to be late. They're not going to do the classroom thing very well because they've never done the digital classroom. They're still learning. You and I are going to make mistakes on this video call. And that's why the Lord tells his disciples, when he's telling them to love one another as I have loved you, his illustration of that is to wash their feet. That is that act of love. That is that I'm going to forgive all the natural dirt that comes with life.
Yeah. And I'm going to do it humbly.
I'm going to do it humbly. I'm going to get down on my knees and I'm going to wash your feet.
Yeah.
And so when I made eye contact with that woman at Walmart, that actually, because I'm a pastor, but that scripture popped into my head. Thank you, angels. Thank you, Lord, for telling me that. And I said, thank you so much. I'm sure you're having a hard day. And she said, I am. There are only two of us back there, or there are only three of us back there. I was like, well, you're doing the Lord's work. Thank you. God bless you. And she said, thank you. Like this huge wave of relief. And I thought, wow, I just said thank you. And
yeah, what did that cost you?
And then so I drove away thinking what a good person I was.
Of course.
Now I've got another spiritual problem.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that part of it. You said this was negative.
That's something that
this sounds really positive to me.
Yeah, well, it was about the negative people, but yeah, they're positive.
Well,
but that's sort of something that the other part that I'd love to encourage people, like reach out.
Yeah.
But be forgiving.
Be patient. Show people some extra grace, some extra mercy, extra patience and forgiveness.
Extra humility.
Yeah, you know, September 11th, firefighters became national heroes. I think grocery store clerks are turning into the heroes of this time. It's interesting, you know,
and delivery people.
And delivery people. Yep. It's
amazing.
We've become so dependent on this narrow thing. I see my camera's battery's going down.
Well,
so you know what?
Have to stop.
We've been going long, so let's just finish it here. That's a great positive note. I'll just say it's been great talking with you, Pierce.
Yes, indeed.
If you have not before, if you head over to my channel, which is The Big Idea with Mac Frazier, or if you're watching on YouTube now, you're there. But subscribe to that channel. That would be really helpful to me. And I think that's it.
Yeah, well, subscribe to his channel, like it, and also comment, just because we'd like to hear what you'd like to hear. Let us know in the comments, and we'll see each other next week sometime.
Yeah.
These have been great. All right, well, your camera's dying, so we should go.
Yeah, I hope we actually made it to the end there. See you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.